Welcome to Beyond HR, the podcast for people-first leaders who know that HR is about more than checklists and compliance. I'm Paige, your co-host, and we will explore the real challenges shaping today's workplaces. From burnout and belonging to strategy and storytelling, we're bringing you honest conversations, practical insights, and a fresh take on what it means to lead with heart in the world of work. Before we dive into our episode, a quick shout out to Manpower for generously providing the space where we record Beyond HR. And here's a quick word from our launch sponsor.
If you're feeling stretched thin, juggling big changes, emotional labor, and communication breakdowns, you're not alone. Hi everyone, I'm Dan Kaplan, founder of Bring Disc to Life, an online community for aspiring leaders and HR professionals. We give you the strategies, tools, and encouragement to communicate in ways that increase your influence while lowering your stress. Using DISC, the 5 behaviors, and mindfulness, you'll learn to stay grounded, read minds, and frame your message to influence others. We have live workshops every month, group coaching to unpack tough situations, and tons of easy-to-use scripts, strategies, and resources that you can apply right away without adding more to your plate. So come refuel with a community that gets you and wants to help you speak your truth in a way that's heard. Join us at confidentcommunicator.com and click on community. That's confidentcommunicator.com. Lead yourself and others will follow.
Oh gosh, I mean, where do we begin with this story?
The beginning.
Originally, anything. Let's go with where I was born, Michigan.
Okay.
I lived there for 6 months. So I was 6 months old when I moved to Cincinnati, Ohio, born and raised there, fell in love with the Rocky Mountains, specifically in Colorado. So I went to undergraduate here out in Colorado, and I actually had a job lined up with the city and county of Denver in their HR department. The small problem was that I had fallen in love with this tiny town known as Aspen, this tiny, tiny resort community that has a global reputation of being extremely affluent, and yet there's a huge working class, and that would be me. So I actually got a job offer in Aspen, not in HR, but I'd fallen in love with the place so deeply that I quit my job before I started it at the city and county of Denver, said, I'm so sorry I'm relocated, moved to Aspen at the age of 21, and I've been here ever since. I'm turning 50 this year. I love talking about turning 50.
Very
I'm so
nice,
excited.
very nice.
But I've been in HR since I was 21 years old.
Wow.
This is all I have ever known. And I didn't fall into it like a lot of people. My very first job was in hospitality with the Ritz-Carlton. I went through a very robust training program, and I was in awe of the woman leading the training program. So I said, that's what I want to do. What is her job? What exactly is this element of HR that I actually didn't really know about? Sure enough, an HR coordinator opened up about 6 months into my move to Aspen. And shortly after that, my boss went on, it was called maternity leave back then. We're talking the 90s, guys. When she went on maternity leave, never came back. I became a director at the age of 22.
Oh, wow.
So I've been operating at a very high level in HR since I was 22. So almost 30 years.
Wow.
It's wild. And I love it. I've done every aspect of it. I've been a generalist. I've been on big teams. I've taken an organization global, private sector, public sector. Most recently, 4 years ago, I started my own consulting business, and it has been amazing. I never understood people who said, I love my job. I thought they were lying through their teeth. And I now love my job. I'm gonna admit it. I did not love HR for most of my HR career. We'll get into that.
Yes.
It was a me problem. It was definitely a me problem.
No, definitely.
So there's a little bit of an opener for us.
Awesome. Well, how about this then? So kind of looking beyond what you do, beyond those expectations, right, of especially running your own business. What would you say, who would you say you are at your core, and what fuels your passion for the work that you do?
I mean, my core, I am a human being. I know that's probably a really strange answer, but I am flawed in every way, like most humans are. I love my flaws. It's part of what makes me human, and it leads to what fuels me, and that is lifelong learning. I love to learn, and I'm not sure if it's because I was labeled, and again, this is, many, many moons ago, but I was labeled with learning disability and vocabulary comprehension. So at a very young age, I was slapped with the label of, you're not smart, you're dumb. Because when learning disabilities, when I was growing up, this is in the 80s and the 90s, it truly was a bit of a scarlet letter. You were not smart. We weren't told at that time, you just think differently. You really were labeled with, you don't meet standard. So that really carried with me. And it took me through understanding that I had lived most of my life with a fixed mindset and a victim mentality for me to understand that I can still learn. I just learn differently. And I really didn't dive into this until I was 45 years old. So when I say that at my core, I am human, I love all parts of the human brain. I talk about the human brain all the time, and I am just a learning being. And I think that's why my drive now is less about the traditional definition of work and so much more about passion.
Sure.
And it's, of course, in service to the HR community.
Absolutely.
That's deep.
Was that a weird answer?
No,
actually, there's a lot to think about there.
I know. I was just literally sitting here and just trying to reflect. I'm like, okay, exactly what she just said. Really taking that all in. Yeah. Deep stuff.
I think for me, it also resonates with the comment, and I was hesitantly when I say this, but the understanding of where you were, that you hated HR for most of your life. I feel like that maybe shared a life experience where there's definitely aspects of, I'm like, man, I don't even know why I'm doing this anymore. And it doesn't even matter. I've told people before that I've attempted to get away from HR, but it just pulls you back. So
it does.
Yeah. Especially if it's something that, to your point earlier, reframing the fact that it's not so much HR itself as maybe the function that you're operating within HR that might not be your strong suit or the part that you enjoy the most. So can you elaborate a little bit on that as far as how did you tell yourself it's not HR, it's what I'm doing within HR?
It took me 25 years of the struggle bus. Like what you just described, something like the hand on the head. What am I doing? I tried to get out of HR so many times. In those first 25 years in the 9-to-5 realm. It never happened. I think for a multitude of reasons, because I was promoted so early on in my career, I'll be honest, I started making really good money. And I live in a really remote community, a really remote part of Colorado where there aren't a lot of quote unquote professional jobs. So I held on for dear life. And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I did. Because to your point, and to your last, direction of the conversation, I was a generalist, and I did all aspects, which is fantastic. But there were certain parts that drained me, and I was skiing after a seriously intense week. Long story short, tore my ACL, and it was the first time I had ever taken FMLA. I mean, talk about I couldn't have children. So when the doctor confirmed that I had a torn ACL, most people are like, oh God, this is the end of the world. My response, thank God. I was going to take a break from work. Who thanks God for sharing their news? He did. I was like, praise Jesus up in heaven. I'm good. So during that 9-month recovery period, and specifically the first couple, I think I was actually out on FMLA for 12 weeks. That's a whole other story why it was extended. However, I took that opportunity to figure out what part of HR I loved. And I work with HR clients all over the country, and everybody has, a different definition of what they love. Mine is like employee relations all day, every day. give me the chunkiest employee relations issue, whether it's a workplace investigation, like no matter what it is, I want to dive in, but I don't dive in to problem solve. I now dive in with a coaching mentality. And that has been the game changer that really drives a higher level of impact than I've ever known before. And I have less emotional weight on my shoulders because I'm not the one advising and directing. I'm coaching, and it's a totally different approach to work.
What would you say is the difference between the two thought processes?
Directing, I use this example often. So if somebody's late for work, the way I was taught to HR, and again, I started in the 90s, right? So I definitely have that old school, I'm just going to say it, the archaic HR approach.
Okay.
That was what instilled in me. Meaning, if somebody's late for work, I would direct and say, it's really important for you to be here at work on time. Sorry, like timeliness, right? Yeah. It's really important for you to be here on time. I don't want to have to take any other measures. You really need to be here on time. It's really important for the company. And I want to keep paying you, and I want to keep you gainfully employed in this remote Colorado community. So that's directing. Mm-hmm. And that was how I was taught to HR. Advising is a little bit different. And it sounds like, what I do? I set my alarm clock across the room, and I get up and I don't keep my phone next to my bed. You should try that. That may be helpful. We think that that's coaching, but it's not. Coaching is, tell me why it's so important for you to be at work on time. It's much more asking than telling. And it may sound nuanced, but it takes all the pressure in the world that it is my responsibility to get this person here on time. Mm-hmm. It takes all of that off our shoulders. And whether it's working with the employee, working with the manager or the supervisor of that employee, it's just this whole new approach that I never knew existed. And I praise the Lord. I'm just getting all religious. I was born Catholic, not a diehard Catholic anymore. So I don't know where all these religious references are coming from, but
it's because I'm here because I work for a religious organization.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny. And it's actually a Catholic organization that I work for. Yes. Okay. Oddly enough.
Well, I love that. Now I'm feeling it.
There you go. There you go. You're home.
I love it. Yeah.
So one question that I have that's kind of like, as you're talking, it's just making me think about it. A lot of HR professionals struggle with imposter syndrome. And
my God, all day.
I have that personally, right?
Yes.
We're going to be vulnerable here, right? So
Please.
what type of advice do you have for someone who feels like they're not HR enough or qualified enough to take the next step in their career?
Either within the organization or out of the organization.
Yeah, sure.
Because that's the part of
this is such an HR. This just shows you how long I've been in HR and how deeply ingrained it is in me. So I lead HR and Power Hour every single Tuesday. I'm a certified Sherman HRCI recertification provider, blah, blah, blah. And I have led a workshop called Bliss. Something Leadership Imposter Syndrome series. Banish Leadership Imposter Syndrome series. And I break it down. We do an assessment, which I call PI. So what are the professional informants of your imposter syndrome? What's the inner game, the thoughts you're choosing that inform your imposter syndrome? And then what are the external factors that are informing your imposter syndrome? So we go through socialization. There's a lot, I tend to coach a lot of women, female CHROs, very experienced senior level HR professionals. And we all know 82 cents on the dollar, what women are paid. We've been socialized to believe as women, I can only speak for myself as a socialized woman, that we are less than. And we should be quiet, and we should be good girls, and you should not speak unless you're spoken to. And just a lot of socialization that keeps women from developing those skills of assertion, advocacy, confidence. Those are all skills. So that's what I mean when I talk about the external informants, the socialization, the internal informants of our imposter syndrome, the thoughts we are choosing over and over again. Mine was, I'm not smart enough. And I'd been telling myself, going back to the beginning of the podcast, like I was telling myself that for years without even realizing. It was both conscious and unconscious thoughts. And then the profession. We are in such an interesting profession. So many of us walk into interviews where the organization or the interviewer will say, you know, we haven't had the best of experiences with HR. You'll be walking in to a battleground. Yeah. How are you going to handle that? I literally have clients tell me that all the time when they're out interviewing. And it's like, why in the world do we have to battle this bad reputation? Sometimes, not all the time. I think HR has made a lot of strides, but that label is still there in a lot of organizations. And on top of it, we have this immense pressure when we carry around the emotional weight of dealing with terminations, dealing with workplace investigations, some heavy, heavy things. And if we don't know how to stop taking things personally and how to mitigate some of those necessities of our profession, it's just going to compound our imposter syndrome. I guess the last thing I would say, I haven't met a single person who doesn't suffer with imposter syndrome. It's just a matter of having that voice become softer, that loud imposter syndrome becomes softer, and we override it by developing new neural pathways in our brain, which sounds all geeky and sciencey, but it's actually not. Just going to say, it's really not that hard. Just takes practice.
Yeah, I think the more that you do it, anything really in your life, you know, practice in my mind does not make perfect, right? Practice makes better. Okay. Almost perfect, which is kind of always been my motto. But even for me, for an example, so I was telling Will last night, we had a chat, and I was like, yeah, I don't love speaking in front of folks because we had a big Cumberland Valley SHRM event today, and it was our first half-day summit. We had 60 people in the room. I do not love speaking in front of people. So what I tend to do, I lead with humor, because it helps me to kind of get through, and that imposter syndrome can kind of go away. And then my heart stops rapidly beating as fast as it goes. But I was telling him, I was like, man, I just don't know why I can't get out of my own way. I just don't understand it. But you're right. It starts to kind of, that voice, that imposter syndrome voice, it's not as loud as it is because you have more practice. So would you say, you know, that's one of the things, kind of practice more and those types of techniques that could kind of help people through?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think along with practicing, you have to know where you are, where your imposter syndrome is coming from.
Sure.
That's why I use that, you know, pie audit, so to speak, for HR professionals to really figure that out. But the key for me, at least, has been identifying where I want to go. In other words, if I'm afraid of speaking, I speak all over the country. I get up on stages all the time. And the way I've overridden my pit sweat and my red face and my shaky voice and all those things is I get really clear on the message I want to deliver to the audience. And for me, after burning out in HR, I was diagnosed with general anxiety disorder. I'm telling you, I approached HR in a very unhealthy way. It took a long time for those compounding negativities to really take hold and start presenting themselves. And so I just didn't know. It crept up on me over time. And how detrimental that was to my mental health, my emotional health, my physical health. If I can prevent one person from burning out, or if I can help one person recover from burnout, that's what gets me up on the stage specifically and helps me just override that imposter syndrome that is absolutely there. But when I just focus on what I want to achieve, that's my big hack.
Sure.
For beating my imposter syndrome. And I have certain things I do. I'm sure you do too, just the whole breathing, you know, tapping into homeostasis, getting back to our parasympathetic nervous system. It's not just a thing in hip, like it actually works.
Yeah. And it's interesting that, not surprising, but interesting that you brought up the mental health, because that's kind of where the next phase of that is I feel like HR people are almost not allowed to talk about mental health because we're supposed to be the ones that pep everybody else up, you know. But being in the position where we are responsible for everyone else's well-being in some way, shape, or form, including the people that may not like us. You know, I can't tell you how many times I've had employees that I'm like, I have to be nice to this employee. I have to walk them through their problems because it's not about them. It's about helping them out, you know. Or maybe the day before I got hollered at by that same employee, and now all of a sudden they're asking questions about their benefits, you know.
Happens all the time, doesn't it?
Yeah, and we don't have the luxury of saying, you know what, go figure it out because you were a butt to me yesterday, you know.
Oh, but we can dream about that too.
Fair, true. But I think over time, to your point, I think you brought up such a good point that I need to explore more after our conversation today is the compounding effect of those kind of interactions and the energy that we pull from those interactions and how they quickly pile up to a place that you do, as an HR person, you can get to a not so great mental health level. And either you see yourself get there or it kind of catches you off guard and you don't know that you're there until not too late, but you know, it kind of smacks you around a little bit. Can you elaborate a little more on that and what's been your experience in watching those things play out in your own life as well as for other people, and what kind of safeguards we can put in place as professionals to catch those things earlier?
I mean, I could talk for 6 hours about my story because it's quite a long one. And if you don't mind me being very detailed and graphic, I think it may benefit your listeners.
You're fine. This is a safe space.
Safe space. So flashy, you know, going back to my 20s, I was operating at a very high HR's high stress.
Mm-hmm.
I think most positions in HR, maybe if you're
the coordinator position and admin are the ones that kind of are exempt from that. Their high stress for the most part is, can you get the paperwork in on time? Make sure your process is payroll. I feel like anything generalist and up, it's when the realization starts happening. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm starting to have a panic attack. No, I'm just kidding. Fair warning to everyone who's listening to this amazing podcast. I developed, I can't believe I'm going to say this, hemorrhoids. I developed hemorrhoids at 25. And my doctor said, how's your stress? I've never seen hemorrhoids in a human being 25 as gross as yours are. Mm-hmm. And what's going on? I was like, I'm fine. You know, I'm just working really hard, going through all those types of things. Same year, I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's, which is a thyroid disease, autoimmune, also related to stress. So there were signs very early on that I was like, oh, well, I guess this is just me. But things like that just kept happening throughout my life. And it reached a point where my insomnia started getting really bad, to the point where I had to start taking trazodone. I mean, there were just health things that I wasn't paying attention to along the way. And personally for me, I think I am an ultra runner, so I'm always running. I'm always training for something. And I've always told myself that helps my mental health, and it does. But I was also literally and figuratively running away from my problems. I thought I could literally outrun the stress. And for me, I couldn't do that. So it helped with my stress, but it wasn't until I discovered thought work and understanding that I can upgrade my thoughts, that I can catch those disempowered thoughts and start shifting them, developing the new neural pathways. That just gave me a whole new lease on life. So I would say in terms of mental health, I'm just glad we're not in the 90s anymore. In the 90s, if you went to therapy, you were shunned from society. It was never brought up in the workplace. You were never allowed to bring your personal life in. And I'll be really honest, I used to judge people who went to therapy. And now I'm like, therapy every day? Not every day. Therapy every week. My coach every week. I am all about it. And you can ask anyone who has known me throughout my HR career. I am a totally different person now. Wow. I was a stress ball on steroids for my first 25 years. And there's just a different way to do it. Did I even answer your question?
You did. What exactly is ThoughtWorks? I heard you make that comment.
Yeah, I mean, thought work in the coaching profession. So when I blew out my knee, I went back to coaching school because I was like, I thought the coaching industry, it's unregulated. So I was like, this is a bunch of baloney. This is a weird industry. I like being SHRM certified. I like being a certified facilitator, all this. I have so many freaking certifications. I was like, but it was actually a coach who's been helping me. So maybe I'll check out this whole coaching thing. And I fell in love with it. And in the coaching world and cognitive behavioral therapy, for those who are therapy fans, our thoughts inform our feelings inform our behaviors, and our behaviors inform our results. And once I understood that.
Can you say that again slower for the people listening?
I can.
Yes. Say it again.
And I haven't coffee in a couple hours, so this is a little terrifying. I know. Imagine fresh on coffee. Our thoughts inform our feelings. Feelings inform our behaviors. Behaviors inform our results. And they say that everything we do is driven by emotion. We are striving to have more pleasure than pain. And when I really started applying that okay, so if I have between, around 60,000 thoughts a day, some are certainly unconscious, but they rise to the conscious level. So once I realized, okay, I'm choosing the thought that I'm stupid, I'm not smart enough, I'm not capable, I haven't been in HR long enough to be in this position, all those types of disempowered thoughts. I personally don't thrive when it goes all the way over here to, well, of course I'm perfect for this position. Of course I have. To me, that's toxic positivity and it doesn't work. So I just personally, every single morning, work on thought upgrades. I recognize the thoughts that are disempowered, and there's a very simple 3-step method I call CUP. So you catch the disempowered thought, you upgrade it, and going back to Paige, you practice the new thought. And then it starts to, once you develop that new neural pathway, it starts to slowly but surely override that limiting belief that you've had in your brain you've been choosing for so long. It's really cool.
What would that look like in practicality? What would be an example of that?
So one of the examples I use on most state SHRM stages, if I'm invited to do thought intelligence, it's one of my workshops is called Thought Intelligence, the Unknown Precursor to Emotional Intelligence.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we teach EQ. It's something we've really latched onto in HR. And my whole premise is, it's actually your thoughts. So an example is I ask my clients, and I ask people who attend my workshops, what was your first thought this morning? So Will, what was your first thought? If you had to be honest, what was your first thought this morning? If you could take a guess.
So because my process in the morning is to get my 4 or 5-year-old daughter ready for school while I'm getting myself ready and everything else, because my wife has to go to work really early. So to spare us from, anyways, I need to make sure that I get everything that I need for the conference and get my daughter out the door on time because I am tight on schedule. That was my first thought this morning.
Okay.
And I think I was half asleep while I was thinking that too. I think I wasn't fully awake and my brain's already do not forget this, do not forget that. Oh, and don't forget your kid either.
Really useful thoughts for sure. But the thought, I think what I heard, and I hate paraphrasing. I'm usually that's verbatim, but I don't want to be late, or I can't be late, or something like. Did I hear that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I encourage my clients to do is just recognize, especially the first thought in the morning, because it sets the tone for the rest of our day. It can, unless we're conscious of our thoughts and we're conscious of thought work. So to just recognize, the first step is awareness, of course. Oh, okay, I'm choosing a thought of I can't be late. What if the thought is, I am on time. I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. I need to wake up. I need to get a cup of coffee and I'm on time and we're going to go and it's going to work out. That may be a little not true for you. So I work with my clients on making sure the thought is true for them and just noticing if we're being really honest with ourselves, if we have a tendency to start off the day with disempowered thoughts. because that alone is what led to my general anxiety disorder and my complete burnout in the field. The thoughts I was choosing all day long, they were very unhealthy. And I didn't even know it.
We have something special for you this launch month on Beyond HR, a partnership with the People Readiness Company. They help teams thrive through change by focusing on what really drives transformation, people. Their platform offers daily practice, real-time coaching, and tools like the Readiness Queue designed to build alignment, emotional intelligence, and adaptability. And here's the best part. They're offering free access to their full platform, including bi-weekly sessions for 6 months starting July 7th for 12 of our listeners. It's first come, first serve, so email us at beyondhrpodcast@gmail.com if you want in. Big thanks to the People Readiness Company. And now, back to the episode.
Yeah.
So I got to tell you, Catherine, it's funny you say about the first thought of the day, because I can tell you, I do feel if I have a bad thought in the morning or it's not as positive as it could be, right? It does set the tone for my day. So this morning, it's funny.
Yeah.
And normally I would, panic about this kind of stuff. And because we were getting a lot ready for this conference, it was, the first half-day summit we've ever done. And it was exciting. And I was like, everything's going to go great. And I'm excited. And I have Will here to help me with tech. But when I got up this morning, I said, I have more time than I thought to get ready. I don't have to rush. And then on top of it, I even grabbed my yogurt, had time to put on granola, because I said to myself, this was kind of my second thought, oh gosh, I better get my yogurt and get something in my stomach before I get coffee, because I will be shaky and I will fall over. And then what happens? I walk out and I'm putting everything in the car and I'm like, okay, I'm going to take 3 things at a time. And so I put everything, started to put the 3 things in the car first. All of a sudden, my hand goes, my yogurt with my granola goes all over my car. And I'm like, well, that's just great. But I said, well, that's just great. And so I was like, well, got to clean this up. So then start picking up the pieces. And I'm looking at the time and I'm like, whatever. I got to clean up my car. So here I am cleaning up my car, but I said, I got to clean up my car so it's not messy. Here starts to go down a little bit. And I'm like,
listen to this.
But I'm going to go get my coffee. And I normally don't get coffee out, but I got coffee at Starbucks today. And I was like, this is great. And this day was phenomenal. Mm-hmm. But I actually found myself saying, I better clean this up so my car is not dirty. And then I'm like, it's okay. Just keep going. And I have plenty of time. And like just having, it was strange, but you're right. Like it just dawned on me that you're right.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think so many of us in HR, Will, what you just described, your wife's already at work. You have to take care of your 5-year-old daughter before you even start your day. And today was a big freaking day.
Yeah.
So we do have big days in HR all the time, big recruitment efforts, all those types of things. So just having that cognition of how we start our day matters, but also if we find that the opposite happens of what Paige just described, if we start on a downward trend, you can use the cup method to just turn it around and just catch it, because our thoughts matter. Mm-hmm. And our brain's our greatest HR power tool. So we may as well start using it, because the capabilities are far greater than most HR professionals, I think, are aware.
Yeah. And even, the HR professionals that are listening, I feel like they can even put this into not like outside of their work. So being a parent, if you are a parent, or even like if you, help take care of like a niece or a nephew or something like that, you can really learn a lot from that cup method, because, you can kind of feel yourself as a parent, struggling in your own ways. You're kind of exhausted, right, from your job. And then you take it home and then they see it. And then they start to act like it. So when they start to act like that, you're like, oh my gosh, I need to change everything that I'm doing because they're watching me. That's scary. And if I act like that, I wouldn't want to be around myself.
Yeah.
So even having that to be able to be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this, and taking a step back and changing. And so it's a step process, and the thought works that you were kind of talking about, I think that can really change. It can be a game changer for a lot of folks.
It was in my life. I don't want to be dramatic and say I probably wouldn't be here, because that is not true. I've always had a life wish, but I wasn't loving my life at all. And Paige, you bring up a really good point, because what happens in the home impacts us at work. And this old school, y'all probably don't have it, but the old school HR mentality was leave your personal life at home and leave it at the door.
We might not have it, but we fight it. I know for me, that's a mentality I'm still fighting to this day. With folks around me and even people outside of work. Like, hey, we can't operate like that anymore because we're not robots.
Yep.
And especially now that we have newer generations that are more emotionally aware of themselves, there's no way that's going to be a functional workplace anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I love learning about emotional intelligence by watching my niece and my nephew.
Yeah.
2 of the 8. I see them a lot more than the others. And they have taught me so much about emotional regulation. I don't know. I am not one to poo-poo the future generations, because I have learned. So I learned so much from all generations. So I couldn't agree more. And gosh, what an interesting conversation.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of your listeners need to hear this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things that I know for me, it's becoming more aware, and I know Paige, we talk about this all the time with our kids. And it's one of the things that I think the children around us are the biggest mirror to ourselves there, period. And they're right in our face. I can't tell you how many times my 5-year-old, it's gotten to, let me backtrack. It's gotten to a place where I get deep thought-provoking ideas from my interactions in the car with my 5-year-old in the morning, just going from our home to her school, because I drop her off in the morning, and it's about a 28 to 30-minute drive. And some of the, not just questions, but just some of the interactions that she has with me about her world, things around her, interactions that she sees between me and her mother, between me and herself, and the way that she frames questions sometimes, where I'm like, I don't know. That is a really good question. Let me think about it. And then she's just like nonchalantly, okay, we'll talk, It's one of those things that, to your point earlier, where we're talking about how, you see your kids react or process things a certain way. It's almost like she's forcing me to have to do what you're speaking of, the thought works, even though I didn't realize there was a term for it. But she's forcing me to have to create the space for myself so that I don't see the bad things about me in her. Even though when she does it, it's not because she's doing it maliciously, but she's a student of my behavior. And to me, I know over the last year where she's a lot more talkative, it's been one of those things that even in the evenings, I'll catch myself talking to my wife like, you're not going to believe what Nixon said or did today. It wasn't bad, but she did this, and all I saw was a miniature version of me. And if she's reacting to XYZ this way with a kid in school or not, then I need to do a better job as a parent, because that way that she reacted wasn't the greatest, and I know she learned that from me. And being more self-aware of that to say, you know what? So then we're trying as best as we can as parents, because there's no guide, there's no rule book on this. But talking to people like yourself and different, other podcasts and videos and YouTube clips and TED Talks about, child development, but being able to find coping mechanisms and ways to deal with problem resolution to apply in the home, not realizing that she's the driving force behind us healing our inner child and us healing ourselves and how we interact with the world. I can never say enough about that, but it's crazy that that's the case.
I mean, can we just listen to Will for the next century? That was incredible.
But it's true. It's just a day-to-day way of dealing with things. And again, I think my child's definitely. We just did some disc assessment, training today, and I think my child is definitely a DI because she's definitely very self-aware, but she's also very dominant in how she does it. But yeah, I think it's just an interesting relationship that we have that she doesn't realize that I feel like at this point in life I'm learning more from her than she's from me. Like I told my wife, I'm teaching her how to deal with life post adulthood, and she's teaching me how to live life in the now, and having that relationship. But anyways, I get emotional when I talk about my kids though.
I bet. And isn't that, I mean, it goes both ways. What you're learning at home impacts you at work and vice versa. I think about the parenting approach, Love and Logic. Have you giving your kids options, essentially?
Yeah. Oh, sure.
So instead of telling, you give your kids options and they start developing problem-solving skills and whatnot. So as opposed to just, following along with what they're being told. I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't
Yeah.
No, you're good.
But I think that applies in the workplace because adults do not like being told what to do.
Oh, for sure.
For sure. There's a whole book. Susan Powell wrote a whole book on why motivation doesn't work and what does. And she talks about one of the elements is autonomy. Mm-hmm. And we take away people's autonomy in the workplace, specifically in HR. Again, it's like get here on time, right? So providing people with options is a step in the right direction. It takes us out of that we're going to tell you what to do versus I want to ask why it's important for you to do it in your own way that works for you. Mm-hmm. Bananas.
It's crazy. One of the burning questions I've been having, it's a different type of thought process. So maybe even me changing my question up with this. I'm now trying to think through. I'm like, oh, should I change this question? That sounds a little strange.
Let's hear it.
Okay, so I'm just going to go the first route that I had kind of noted. But so HR, bear with me, can be super isolating. Okay. And it's really hard to make like those workplace friends without crossing professional boundaries. So how to you can HR professionals build meaningful relationships while maintaining, the role integrity that we have to have and uphold?
I think there's so many things we can talk about in this lifetime. Going back to your really first powerful question of who are you at your core? We're all human. Why do we think that we just, going back to what Will was saying too, like we don't just have to talk about work all the time. We can connect over other things and not politics. There are so many other things that we talk about.
Right.
And I do think it's appropriate, Paige, to your point, I call them high quality questions. I call them HQQs. So instead of how are you and getting the proverbial 4-letter answer, I'm fine, I'm okay, and not really generating deeper connection in that sense of belonging. What was the best part of your weekend? What's your favorite project you're working on right now? What's your least favorite project you're working right now? And just starting and practicing with those high quality questions. I bring this up with my clients all the time and they're like, well, no duh that's going to yield more connection, less isolation in HR, make us look like a real person. But when I ask my clients to actually apply it and practice it, they are blown away by the shifts in the relationships they're having in the workplace. And they're like, I cannot believe I've been asking LQQs, low quality questions, and wanting to feel less isolated. That's how we take our power back in HR, by just starting with some more higher quality questions. It's just the tiniest shift can make a huge difference. And I think another great thing, I love you had Cumberland Valley SHRM today. You got together in a safe place amongst HR professionals. And one thing I caution people on is just noticing when we're bitching and moaning. We have to get it out of our bodies. We do. I'm not saying don't do it. Please, dear God, for the love of God, get it out of your body. And remember that you can also build through brainstorming. Sure. So once it's out, it's like, okay, thanks for hearing me out on that. Help me figure out what a next step might be to move forward, to move past this, to start showing up in a different way, to ask high quality questions, those types of things. I don't know how I just looped that back together, but I think it came full circle.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was full circle. So those clients that are, asking those high quality questions now,
Yes.
Have they ever ran into the situation where people still look at, the HR as like the principal's office, or like, ooh, they're trying to get me to tell me something or tell them something. And so then they're just going to be like, let's just stick it to them. Have you ever heard that still? And how do you navigate that?
All day, every day.
Okay.
Your tone. Okay.
That's my got it. Okay.
Yeah. And how we show up in HR matters. And truly, this is where the difference between directing, advising, and coaching makes all the difference in the world. As opposed to HR coming in, I'm just going to say it, with a got ya, got you not showing up to work. It happens. And that, maybe it's not that aggressive, but it's the judgmental part of our brain that's coming through. We do a lot of telling, and the way we start to shift out of that archaic way that people look at HR is how we approach HR. So instead of, it's recognizing our judgment and overriding it with developing the skill of curiosity and truly being curious. I hear the term narcissistic boss at least 6,000 times a day. Not dramatic there. I hear it all. My boss is so narcissistic. And when we slap labels on people with judgment, we are not helping that person. We are not helping the organization. We are not helping our teams. And I get it. There are certain personalities that are really tough. I'm not saying that that doesn't exist, but if we look at it through a curious lens, like, oh my gosh, I wonder if they actually are diagnosed with NPD, narcissistic personality. I mean, do they have an actual diagnosis? Then we get into a whole ADA conversation. We'll say that. But it's like, what has, again, a high quality question. I wonder what's gone on in their life or gone on in their day to day that's informing the way they're showing up. And when we choose that thought, we're going to show up differently for that person. And it's just, and not blaming ourselves or shaming ourselves. Judgment's a part of the human brain, but we just have to catch it, correct it, and move forward. And I think that's how we shift out of the label of gotcha into I've got you. That's when in HR we can truly show up at, even if we're terminating somebody,
Sure,
it's I've got you.
And that's hard. I mean, those conversations are hard enough. And the one thing that I said when I got in HR, because, you hear HR having all of this bad raps, right? And still to this day, depending on who you deal with, I told myself personally, I said, I will not be that HR professional. Is like, I am going to change this game. And I know I am, and I know I'm capable. And even having that positive mindset has made a difference for myself. Like the other day, for example, I just got told that I am now officially this person's emotional security blanket. And they said, I don't know what that means for you, and I'm so sorry in advance, but I trust you, and, you've been so supportive. And I'm like, oh my gosh, stop making me want to cry.
No.
But it's cool to actually hear those things. And these are the things that bring people back to HR, I think, because it's like, this is why I'm here. Okay, this is actually what I'm meant to do. And then you have those terrible moments where you're like, ugh, why am I actually do this? Like Will was saying earlier. But I love the high quality questions, and I love the thought works that you said. So just really reshifting that thing, because you can, it seems from what you said, from what I just learned, that you can really change those, what'd you call them? In your brain, right? You can change.
Our thought or neural pathways.
Thank you. You can change those. You can change those. So that's pretty neat.
And that's Okay, here comes geeky. I mean, I'm an HR geek through and through. I'm slowly becoming a neuroscience geek too. Neuroscience has only been around about 50 years. So think about how, I mean, I know HR came out of personnel. I know the whole history of HR. But if we think about how long the practices have been passed along in terms of showing up in HR in a certain way. We are paperwork people, just all of those labels. And when we start to show up differently, right, and start learning how to use our brains differently, it will have a really cool ripple effect on the world. So people honestly thought until about 50 years ago that you could not teach an old dog new tricks. And I can't tell you how many of my boomer bosses, and I say this with love, but my boomer bosses who are now retired would say in the workplace, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, don't worry about it. But you can.
You just have to take the time to do it.
And there has to be a willingness.
Absolutely.
I have worked with, I do calls before I start working with clients, not to just talk about like price and the program and all those types of things, but to make sure we are a good fit. And I have said no to working with clients who are so committed to their victim mentality. There's just no willingness on their end. It's very evident that they're blaming and shaming HR, their boss, the food they ate, all of the traffic. And I want to help them move past their victim mentality, but some people are just really committed to it for safety reasons, for coming from the amygdala. And I just know I'm not the right person to help them yet.
I love the fact that you kind of have given a third option to burnout. Because when I think of burnout, I think of you either stay there and deal with it and suck it up. Option 1. Option 2, you leave the organization. But your option 3, which is, again, it's one of those things that like the information is there, but until somebody brings it to the surface, you don't realize it. Is to what your point was saying, is reframing how you look at the other person's natural operating system and what experiences they're bringing to how they're like demonstrating themselves. What if you get to a place that you realize that their moral compass, and I'm not saying illegalness, but just the way their view on how life functions is fundamentally different from yours. And you're talking about an HR pro and an operational pro. What, and you're gone through the exercises of, hey, I'm going to put myself in that person's shoes. What traumas, what's prior shadows, what things are demonstrating themselves in that person that are giving them the way that they, handle themselves. But then once you do that analysis, you're like, man, we just see the world and half glass full, half glass empty, so drastically different. How would you help a person navigate that?
So what I like to do is figure out where they are on the continuum of exhausted and empowered, or exhausted and energized. Because Paul Stoltz's work is all about the adversity quotient. Some people, like me now, I wasn't always this way. I thrive when there is a monster problem to solve. And sometimes, that is, I'm a certified mediator. I love diving into mediations. But if I'm dealing with somebody who, let's just say, thinks I am the world's worst person, that to me is sucking the life out of me. When it feels very personal, and let's just be honest, when it's being like they are literally saying to you, I hate HR, I hate the way you HR, those types of things, right? And especially if that's coming from a boss. There are some people who that completely depletes them. And if you're depleted, it's time to go. It's time to look for a new organization, or it's time to do a values analysis on yourself, to get clear on your values, get crystal clear before you start looking for another job. And I also advise people to make sure you're working towards something and not running from your job. You have to make that distinguishment, or you are going to continue to cycle in what I call deficit pacing, DBT. hope I just answered your question, but I feel like I had something else to share and now I can't remember.
That's okay. Well, even expanding on that. So what does it look like to, instead of running away, to run towards?
What's the difference?
Or what does that look like as far as like, how does that show itself?
So running away versus running towards something.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give a really good example. When I left the 9-to-5 world in HR, I mean, I'll just put my life right. I had switched from the private sector of 20 years to the public sector. And I hung in there for 5 years. I am not wired for at least this one particular public sector employer. The pace was really slow. And again, this is me without coffee. I am like, I'm a DC on the disc profile. So I get shit done. Sorry.
You're good.
But I also have high level of detail. So I kind of drive myself crazy. Like, I want to get it done, but it has to be perfect, right? And I have this like
push pull.
Yeah. And I stayed because I wanted to be fully invested in my retirement. And I was telling myself all these thoughts, like, there aren't a lot of high level HR positions. You better hold on to this one for dear life. It reached a certain point where I have a learning brain. I love to learn. I love to grow. My boss, bless him, my boss has a fixed mindset and hasn't read a book since he graduated graduate school 30 years ago. We are two totally different people, totally different approaches to work. And I was like, you know what? I'm still growing and I still have a lot to contribute. And he's like, two people can be right at the same time. And I just said, you know what? We're just not aligned and that's okay. So I started playing around with my consulting business and I had more work than I could handle so quickly that I ended up leaving sooner than I thought I would. So again, gosh, I don't know if I answered your question.
No, you did.
But I know I was.
Yeah, I think even the last.
Like that imposter syndrome coming out? I'm still working on mine. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, you better change that thought.
Yeah. Even the last statement was kind of captivating. The whole two people can be right. Because there's always that power struggle. Somebody has to be wrong. We can't both be right because we're opposite ends. We're looking for two different perspectives. And yeah, so that's interesting.
Absolutely. And I believe that to my core. I really love Don Miguel's work, The Four Agreements.
I love that book. That was the genesis to my inner work, was that book.
Me too.
Yes. Yeah, my wife came across that book, I want to say 2 years ago. Yeah. And then it's funny because I attribute my current, inner work journey to my wife. And hopefully she hears this episode and knows that I love her very much. But she hounded me for probably a good 6-7 months. And I would find every reason under the sun. I don't feel like reading that. I don't like reading. I'm not a reader, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, fine. Then I'll just get in an Audible. I'm going to get rid of every excuse under the book for you not to freaking listen to this book. And eventually I gave in and I was like, whatever, it is what it is. But I can tell you that the perspective shift that book brings to you. And I photocopied the back cover and I have it with me in my binders and everything because it's the first thing I want to be able to see when I open my important things. But, oh man, that's such a good book.
Now I'm going to have to read it.
Yes. Don Miguel Ruiz, yeah.
And he wrote a follow-up book called The Fifth Agreement. My one greatest takeaway from that book was the biggest battle we will ever have in our own life is the battle we have within our brain, between our two ears. And when I think about the crazy shit that like that battle in my brain, when I think about my personal battle, and going back to all of us being human and knowing that every human on this planet is having a very different but similar battle nonetheless, that is where my empathy, no matter if I am dealing with the most narcissistic person in the world, I just can only imagine that struggle and that Braveheart battlefield scene going on in their heads. And it's like, okay, how can I show up and be helpful and not hurtful? How can I help empower this person and get them out of their disempowerment. How do I do it? Through my high quality questions?
It's funny that you say that. So I learned something very important from my pappy. And he actually told me, I know, bless him, really. I learned a lot. I learned a lot from him. I grew up a lot with him, but he said the one day he actually asked like somebody who was working at the cash register, she was being very, kind of rude to him, very, just like snubby. And he says, "Are you having a bad day?"
Oh.
And then she just like spewed. And it was kind of crazy. And, that was one thing that I learned, showing that empathy. And I'm a very empathetic person to begin with. But I'm also, come back to reality type of thing. Let's talk this through too. But I have learned, and I have asked that question to people, and it's just crazy what they'll tell you. Mm-hmm. And then you become their emotional support blanket.
Like it or not.
Yeah.
That acronym is no longer about ESP, reading people's thoughts. It's about emergency service blanket. Is that what you said?
Emotional support blanket?
Emotional support blanket. Oh, never mind. ESP.
ESP.
Yeah.
As
just add another curve to the letter B, right?
But isn't that what you love about HR? It sounds like that's what you love, like being able to take care of others in a professional way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah,
you
definitely.
provide a safe and secure environment. And that's, why I got into HR to begin with. And, the training side is, in particular, one of my favorites on the leadership side, because you can actually teach the leaders how to take care of their own. And that's super, super important. So, Katherine, Will, first, do you have anything else for Katherine before we kind of close out?
I can keep talking for days, man.
I could.
It's one of those things
let's go. We'll just record your entire year of the podcast.
I may just have to drive home on the way, and then I'll just keep talking. I have 2 kiddos myself, so
No, we definitely have plenty to talk about. I think this conversation isn't over, but
we're gonna have to do this again. I could talk to you all day.
I love that.
So
Same.
For this episode in particular, if the listeners can take away just one powerful insight from our conversation today, we've talked about a lot, something that could truly help them redefine maybe their purpose and like their passion and find fulfillment in what they do, what would that be?
If you're feeling stretched thin, juggling big changes, emotional labor, and communication breakdowns, you're not alone. Hi everyone, I'm Dan Kaplan, founder of Bring Disc to Life, an online community for aspiring leaders and HR professionals. We give you the strategies, tools, and encouragement to communicate in ways that increase your influence while lowering your stress. Using DISC, the 5 behaviors, and mindfulness, you'll learn to stay grounded, read minds, and frame your message to influence others. We have live workshops every month, group coaching to unpack tough situations, and tons of easy-to-use scripts, strategies, and resources that you can apply right away without adding more to your plate. So come refuel with a community that gets you and wants to help you speak your truth in a way that's heard. Join us at confidentcommunicator.com and click on community. That's confidentcommunicator.com. Lead yourself and others will follow.
I know this is used all the time now. We talk about it, but do we actually do it? And I think the power of the pause. And if you find yourself pushing, I'm going to push through. I just need to get through this day. I need to get through this week. And you find that is a pattern. It's going to feel counterintuitive to slow down. You're going to want to keep going. It is actually the antidote and the answer to what's going on. Because when we pause and we slow down and we're able to think differently, when we're able to go for a walk, all of those wellness types of opportunities, there's so much science behind it. And believe in that science and practice pausing. I know we haven't even talked about that yet, but
no, but I love the pause.
And if I hadn't blown out my knee, if I hadn't taken that forced time off from that fast pace HR push mentality that I had for 25 years, it'd be ugly. We'll just say that.
Yeah, and I'm a firm believer that if you do not take care of yourself, source and your body will force you to take care of yourself.
Hands down.
It might take years, it might take months, but eventually they're gonna be, you know what, we're gonna do something for you to get this crap in order because you clearly are not taking care of the things that you have to take care of. So, no, I've definitely been there.
Yep.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. So this is the time of the show where you get to tell us a little more about what you got going on in your life, what you got going on in your business, things that you would like to share with the listeners and things to keep our eyes out on for Ms. Katherine.
Yeah. I will be seeing both of you in October.
Yeah.
I'm speaking at the Maryland SHRM Conference. I'm the keynote this year.
That's amazing. I'm so sad, Katherine. I'm actually going to miss it.
Right, you told me that.
I'll be in Myrtle Beach, but I'll be with my family, so,
yes. And don't forget, Will and I are coming to see you in Myrtle Beach.
That's right. We talked about this.
Yes, we did.
Yes, you're going to fly and everything. All right.
We'll take a private jet.
Yes.
Yeah. I'll work on that.
But
I don't
Thanks.
know how. But yeah, I'm so excited to be speaking all over the country again this year. I'm working one-on-one with clients. I have a client, Rachel Fink. I think you both know Rachel.
I feel like I
Do you
knew
know
that
Rachel
name.
The name sounds familiar.
Maybe she's
So
one of the
Will, I
CB
coached her
members.
this morning, and she was working. Oh gosh, I can't remember the last 9 to 5 job she was working in. But she is now starting her own consulting business.
That is awesome.
That's
And when
amazing.
I told her I was doing a podcast today, she's like, "Tell them I said hi." But yeah, so she's based in Maryland, and she's really partnering with organizations to help them get really, really clear on their people strategy and make sure that it makes sense for the individual company.
That's
so
amazing.
she's doing, like, she has broken out of the 9 to 5 world. She's
That's awesome.
starting a business, and it's crazy because on LinkedIn, she is just truly it sounds like manifestation-y a little bit, but
Yep.
Nope. I'm all
Yeah,
for it. I'm here for that.
totally. And she put that open to work and was having some thoughts about it, like, oh, is this a bad thing? If people know that I'm open to work, but then in her bio, she articulated, I'm starting my business, and she has people calling her
Wow.
and saying, I've worked with you in the past. I know you, blah, blah, blah. How can we work together type of thing? So
That's amazing.
that is what I help my clients do.
Awesome.
Amazing.
Is through the HR 2.0 program, actually, it's like, okay, if you are ready to finally start that consulting business you've been talking about for a long time, I can help you get there because I've done it as clients do. And then the other thing I do, I teach HR Empower Hour every single Tuesday, like clockwork, 2:00 Eastern time. Because I'm a SHRM HRCI recertification provider, everybody gets credits.
Nice.
And we talk about a topic of the week. So this week was alcohol. How many times alcoholism or alcohol has played into HR conversations? A lot more. Like when you start to think about it, it's like, oh my gosh, I've had so many conversations about alcohol.
Oh, you got to get a drink after that. Oh, man, I need a drink. Oh, man. And then here I am talking, and this is my drink of choice. You can't even see it. Sparkling water.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
My drink of choice.
My drink of choice, too.
Yes.
I stopped drinking a couple years ago. And anyway, a topic du jour that you don't find at typical conferences. I like to get to things that really move the needle in terms of, is alcohol a healthy form of escapism for you? How do you know if it is actually self-sabotage? And what does that look like? And so we get real in HR Empower Hour. It's very different.
Very good. And how can listeners get to HR Empower Hour?
My website, www.marblepeakconsulting.com.
Perfect.
Very simple. Yeah.
Very
or just email me. That's also on the website. But yeah, y'all, this has been so fun.
It has
Thank you
been.
so much. And I'm so excited to see the progress of your podcast. You're doing really meaningful work, and I can't thank you enough for what you're doing for the HR community.
We are
Thank
trying
you.
to change it.
Thank you. We appreciate that for sure. And this is just as much for them as it is for us. I know for me, I can speak to that. It's definitely, this is again my own self-therapy through meeting amazing people and getting to peek at their brain a little bit. So we thank you for being on the podcast
Yes,
and
thank
taking
you.
time
My pleasure.
away from your day and chatting with us for sure. So thank you so much, Katherine. We appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for tuning in to the Beyond HR podcast. We hope today's episode inspired you to reflect and grow in your own HR journey. Connect with us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Beyond HR Podcast. If you found value here, share it with your fellow HR professionals. Until next time, keep making an impact on yourself.